Hey everybody, I'm Doug, and Connor is on assignment this week, but that's okay because I'm at Bethel High School with a room full of fabulous folks that I want to introduce you to. Our district is an area rich with cultural diversity, and that's especially true for our district's Native American population. Joining us today are Rachel Barger and Amy Savo, two teachers on special assignment who work with students in our Native American education program. Before we get started, I want to set the stage for our audience, and I don't know if Rachel or Amy, you want to take these questions, but how many tribes are there in the United States? How many are there here in Washington? And how many are represented in our student population here in Bethel? Rachel, you have those numbers?
Well, when you talk about tribes, it's really hard to pinpoint the exact amount of tribes represented. But in general, we can go based off federally recognized tribes. And in the United States, there's 574. Here in Washington, we have 29 federally recognized tribes. And here in Bethel, with our student population in Title VI, which is not all Native students. It's students that have opted into a program. We have approximately, we just did numbers this week, 560-ish, and over 100 tribes represented right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
100 tribes represented here in Bethel. That is a lot. And joining our conversation are students from Bethel High School that represent some of those tribes. So if we can go around the table and have you all introduce yourselves, let us know your name and what tribes you're affiliated with. We'll start on my left here.
I'm Isabella, and I'm from the Yakima tribe.
Hi, I'm Ava, and I'm from the Puyallup tribe.
Hi, I'm Thomas, and I'm from the Eskimo tribe, village of Elam.
Hi, I'm Amani. I'm from the Seminole tribe.
Thank you all for being here today. I want to start our conversation with what you all learned when you were growing up about tribal heritage, whether it was from your family or friends, and how it impacted your identity growing up. Let's start with you, Isabella.
It started off with my family coming from my mom, and she introduced it ever since I was a little baby. Like, I had a baby board, I had all that stuff, and then she brought me to powwows, took me to the reservation and stuff like that.
Awesome. Ava, how about you?
So my mom is the one that's Native in my family. I grew up with little Native American knowledge, especially from my own tribe, but around like elementary school, I got involved with the Native American Club, thanks to Ms. Barger, and I guess throughout elementary to high school, she's been a really big help with learning about my Native heritage.
That's awesome. Thomas, over to you.
I've always been a part of the Native culture. I've always known about it. When I was a baby, my dad bought me little tiny mukluks, and they had me try a lot of Native foods from my tribal land. They're pretty good. I've just always been a part of it.
That's awesome. Imani, close us out. How about you?
Well, I remember my first time going to a powwow my grandma brought me, and I didn't really know that much about my Native side because I was mostly around my other culture, so I wasn't really used to it. So I was always just taught, like, oh, yeah, you're Native. But I remember my grandma introducing it to me, and most of my Native family doesn't really live in Washington, so it was kind of hard to learn, and, especially about, like, my tribe. They're not even from the Northwest or anything. So when I got into high school, I remember meeting Mrs. Barger, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I was kind of nervous at first. I was like, I haven't really met any type of Native mentors besides, like, my grandma, my mom, and all, like, my aunties and stuff. So she really, like, helped me tap in more into my culture and learn a lot of things about my Native culture I didn't know about.
Well, Rachel, that's two fantastic shout-outs for your work here in Bethel. Let's rewind the clock a little bit. You grew up a Bethel kid. What schools did you attend in the district, and what did your family teach you about your tribal identity?
I went to Ray Elementary from kindergarten through 6th grade, and then Bethel Junior High and Bethel High School. Graduated in 1998 from here. Growing up, it was not a whole lot of conversations about being Native. My family had done a lot to erase that identity because of experiences of my grandmother and boarding schools. And so there wasn't a whole lot of things taught, but we were signed up for Native program from kindergarten on, and that really got me to be curious more about why would my family sign me up for this if we don't talk about it at home. And so the tribal identity part came a lot from my own personal investigations into it, and then also thankfully for the Title VI program and the teachers that I had that were my mentors as well.
That is amazing, and I love the fact that you were in the Native American education program as a kid, and now you're helping to lead it. We're going to come back to that. Amy, I don't want to leave you out of the conversation. You actually grew up on the Lower Elwha Reservation. Can you talk about what your upbringing was like?
So actually was born in Seattle area, and then by the time I turned 5 years old, we moved to the Lower Elwha. and lived among the Nusklayim people, the strong people. They welcomed us in and they loved us, and I still really have strong ties with them as families out there, and they're now my family too. But it's very small, and everybody knows everything. It's a very tight-knit community, and it's very strong. But it was very difficult in school because we didn't have a tribal school, so we rode the bus for at least 20-30 minutes to get to school, and it was very predominantly white, so it was very hard to fit in and to just kind of walk in two different worlds. And then we had our Title VI program as well, so I was a part of that, as well as our Clallam language within the high school. So being a part of those programs helped us strengthen our identity within our schools and to feel like we had a place that we belonged within school. And so when this job opportunity came, I was like, I have to be a part of that too, because that's a big reason why I'm where I am today, is because of our Title VI program.
That's amazing. And I love that phrase that you used, walking in two different worlds. I think that's what the Title VI Native American Education Program helps students to do. You were both part of a program like that growing up. And Rachel, for you, being part of the program here in Bethel, what did that program do for you as a student, and what is it like to give back now in this leadership role?
For me, it was consistency. The two staff that actually had worked in the program were with me throughout my whole educational career as a student. David Norman, actually, and Carol Dittbenner are the two. Carol Dittbenner is still within our community. Her grandson is actually a part of the Title VI program now and one of my students. But it was someone that was always a common face and someone that I knew would always be there to help me along the way. And even in times of difficulty or things within families that could impact you somehow emotionally or things like that, they were someone that I knew that I could talk to with trust and support from them. And so that was one of the biggest proponents for myself, being a first-gen college kid. Carol Dittbenner also really supported me in seeing that I could have a future and go to school, and that just because my family has never experienced that doesn't mean that I couldn't. And so meeting in this little office over here to the right, one of the smallest offices in the counseling center, she'd bring us in and always be here with snacks or food and support, and also calling you out if she knew that you were maybe giving up on something. And that's what I really valued about her. And that's sort of, in a way, what I wanted to see as myself as a teacher, within the Title VI program that took me a little bit to get to be a part of, being able to be that for the students and seeing them hopefully every week. Our group here has grown so much that it's hard to see all of our kids in a day. Amy's groups too, especially in high school. But just being that face that feels safe and in a sacred space that's ours, that they can come to and feel comfortable with. So that's part of my hope.
That's awesome. And Amy, same question for you, because you also grew up in the Title VI Native American Education Program, and now you're giving back. What is that like for you?
Well, it's like, you get to be that person that you looked up to, that was there for you, that constant, like Rachel's talking about. There's not very many people within education that give representation to Native education or to Native students, and to be that example, as well as that one person that you can just reach out to and feel safe. So being that safe place for our Native students, it's just really rewarding.
I want to bring the students back into our conversation, and let's talk about belonging and barriers to education. And we'll go around the table, I think, in the same order, and start with you, Isabella. What challenges do you feel that you faced as a Native American, and how has this program helped?
In 4th grade, we were learning about the war and stuff, and we're watching a video in class. And these kids, they just start hitting their desks. I think they were playing, in the video, there was, like a cultural song. And they started hitting their desks like they're drummers and just mocking them and mocking their language. And it really offended me. It really broke my heart that I heard that. And I was like, why are you saying that? It really hurt me. Still throughout, because I used to always come to school with my hair braided, but, it got to the point where a lot of kids bullied me because people were like, oh, where's your feather? Where's your regalia and stuff like that. I'm like, I just wear my hair down now.
Ava, let's hear from you.
Remember in middle school, we learned about the natives and World War, and how all these other kids in my class just thought, well, the natives were savages. They live in the woods. They deserved to go to those boarding schools because obviously it's what made America what it is today. And I just remember having conversations with my classmates and trying to have them understand what it's like and how Native culture is such a blessing and also just so much bigger than what everyone else thinks that it is. And still now it's just so hard to have someone fully understand what it's like to be Native or just the culture in general. And I feel like I've always had an issue with that because everyone just thinks all natives and tribes are the same.
Ava, thank you for sharing that. Thomas, over to you. Same question, just challenges you face as a Native American and how this program's helped you.
So it really all started in elementary school, where we were learning about the natives in social studies class, and they were talking about in the books, and my teacher, she kept talking about how the natives were the most peaceful people in the world, and I raised my hand and said, that's not true. The book is wrong. Natives were just as bad at wars and fighting as any other nation in the world. It's just human nature. And then she got all mad at me and said, whoa, that's not true.
Yeah, and I love that you had it within you to, what grade did you say you were in?
I was in third.
In third grade, I love that was within you to challenge what you were learning with things that you had learned growing up. That's amazing. Finally, let's go over to you, Amani. Same question, things that you've experienced as Native American in school.
One of the main things is probably just not being acknowledged as Native American. I feel like a lot of people have this stereotype of what an indigenous person is supposed to look like. Like, you're supposed to, like everybody said, have feathers in your hair, have long hair, wear the 2 braids, wear certain clothes, talk a certain way, look a certain way. Obviously, not everybody's fitting that stereotype because it's stereotype. No, people are going to do their own thing. Like I said, they have the stereotype. So when they look at me and they're like, you're Native? Yes, I'm Native. Just because I have cornrows in my hair, or just because I wear certain clothing, just because I listen to certain music or talk to certain people, talk a certain way, doesn't make me any less Native or anything. It just means that, I know my culture, I know what I have, I know what I know.
Well said, and you're right. The stereotypes surrounding probably something that's on TV, like you said earlier, Rachel, we have 100 tribes represented here in the Bethel School District, and they don't all look alike or act the same or have the same traditions and things like that. So, Amy, let's kick it over to you. Thinking about everything the students have just said about stereotypes and ignorance and bullying and a lack of acknowledgement, what is your program doing to address these challenges?
So one of the things that we've been doing is trying to bring awareness, not just to have our student groups that we work with each day or each week, but to bring awareness to all students in all groups in all schools that we have as often as we can. There's 2 of us in our program that are servicing our Native Ed students, but we've been working this year with other stakeholders, with other counselors and other teachers, or starting to work with other groups, hopefully equity and the other groups that we have going on that we've been planning certain activities with to reach more students and reach more families and reach more community. One of the big things that Rachel had started before I got here was the South Sound powwow, bringing it back and working with other districts in the South Sound. And that was one of the things I got to do at first. And we hit the ground running and we started right away. And I was like, all right, I'm on board. Let's get this going. And it's something that brought our whole community together and brought awareness to people that didn't know what a powwow was or what we do or that Native Americans existed in this area. And this year was even better. So we're hoping to continue to do more activities like that bring awareness, not just for our students that are learning their culture, but for all students and all families and all community.
Well said. Rachel, anything you want to add to that?
I think another component that we heard in the voices of our youth and from our Indigenous Parent Committee, which is a board of volunteers that serves our students each year and provides insight about how we could serve our students, and then in our tribal consultation and collaboration with the Nisqually tribe, and now this year also adding in the Puyallup tribal partners, is the Since Time Immemorial curriculum, which had been around for, since 2005 was when we first looked at legislation about it, and then it was reaffirmed in 2015, was taking the time with teaching and learning to truly partner and look at that as a curriculum and repackaging it and providing it for our staff in a different way, which gave a lot more confidence for our staff. A lot of what we were hearing, too, was that we just don't want to make any mistakes and do anything wrong. And so we had a lot of conversations about, well, that's kind of the wrong thought already. And so how can we help you feel safe in teaching this curriculum so that our students can see themselves within the teachings and what's going on in the schools, so that way we don't have these same conversations about the wrong histories being taught. And that's been a huge impact, I feel like, for our staff, learning about who our tribal partners are and becoming more aware about tribal community. And that's changing a dynamic in our district for sure, instead of just being in isolation with Native kids and getting things in front of all students and community.
Fantastic. And you just alluded to this, but our district covers 202 square miles, and it's on lands that was once shared between the Puyallup and the Nisqually tribes. I love that you're engaging with both those tribes in your work. How is that helping to enhance your program's experience for our students?
Well, partnering with both the Nisqually and the Puyallup offers more expertise from each tribe, because when you know one tribe, you know one tribe. They're not all the same. We're not all the same. So each one of us sitting at this table is from a different tribe. So having the expertise from both tribes is very helpful, and just the knowledge that they share and the expertise and the elders that we can glean from are going to be very supportive in the work that we do here.
That is a great point. And one way, Rachel and Amy, that you are working, in my research for this, I was looking through your newsletter and totally overwhelmed by the amount of things that you have going on. Incredible opportunities, and we don't have time to talk about them all now, but family gatherings, field trips, assemblies, heritage fairs, and the Native American program also is working hard to increase students' attendance, academics, cultural identity, and post-secondary opportunities. And one of those that you're doing is the Native American Youth Leadership Academy. Rachel, you've got 22 students in grades 8 through 12 who are selected to participate in this opportunity. What are they getting out of this?
When we take students that have to apply to participate in NALA, it's offered up to any of our students in 8th through 12th grade in any of our secondary schools. So we partner with other school districts to come together. This year there's 12 school districts and approximately 175 Native American kids that all meet together at the Puyallup Little Wolves Tribal Facility. And we are there 4 times a year, and we focus on building up the abilities of our Native kids to be leaders within their schools, to have the confidence to speak in rooms like this about things that might have been taboo before, to be able to have your voice be heard and feel confident in knowing that they are in a safe space to be able to do that. And that way they can help be those change makers within our district. And so our focus for NALA is unity, mentoring, leadership, and then culture. And so those 4 components are what drive our thoughts as the educators that plan those events for our students. And then our biggest takeaway is the community impact. What can we do back in our schools as the NALA leaders? And then how can you give back to others? And one of the things that we are trying to do is something called Native Teachings for our elementary kids, where these student leaders will also get to be change makers for our elementary Native American youth in our district.
Last year, Rachel and I took 12 elementary students to what was like NALA, or Native American Youth Leadership Academy, but for elementary students. And so they went to the same location and had a full day of songs, dance, storytelling, cultural medicines, things like that. And so after that full day, I realized, I'm like, man, I really got to know these 12 students out of all of our students that we have, over hundreds of students for elementary. And we talked about, hey, why can't we do this in district so that we can cover this all for all of our students and not just 12? So we can have, 60 to 70 students from 2nd to 3rd grade, and then 4th and 5th grade, and then have our NALA students, for our leadership students, come in and help us facilitate this so they have something they come back to be able to do. So we're working on being able to do that for our elementary students, to have our students be able to facilitate activities and learn the culture and the history and teach our elementary students so they have something to come back and put into practice what they're learning at this Leadership Academy.
That is super cool, and a great reminder that while we're speaking to high school students today, your program covers preschool through 12th grade, so that Native students at every level of education throughout the district are getting to participate. I think that's fantastic. But since we are speaking to high school students, another big event that you have coming up is the Indigenous College and Career Fair, which is going to be a great resource for students to make connections to schools, trades, jobs, and scholarships. And I always like to ask high school students after you graduate what your plans are. So let's go around the table and start with you, Isabella. After graduation, what are your plans?
I would like to go to UW and get my degree in psychology.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Ava, how about you?
I'm planning to go to an out-of-state university or college and hopefully get my major in psychology so I can become an emotional psychologist.
Wow, 2 psychology majors. Okay. Thomas, how about you?
After high school, I plan to go to the Washington State University and join the Air Force ROTC program and join the Air Force as an officer, as an engineer.
Fantastic. And you're in JROTC now here at Bethel, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And finally, over to you, Amani.
After high school, I want to go to a fashion design school in New York or somewhere other than Spanaway.
I love it. Paris and anywhere. Yeah, somewhere in Italy. That sounds fantastic. I love it. Well, Amy and Rachel, what future plans do you have for this program?
Just creating that space for community to be involved and learning about our cultures and our differences. And one of the ways that we've done that is with our middle school assemblies. And we've created the themed assembly opportunities. So January is Fish Wars, where it talks a lot about the impacts to specifically this region and this community, and key players like Billy Frank Jr. and other tribal people from this area that had been impacted. And there's a film that just came out called Fish War that the Northwest Indian Fisheries Commission put together, and we are going to get to be one of the locations that shows that.
That's
and
amazing.
A free showing, free viewing. So we're going to hopefully host it at Graham Capalson High School, and it's open to, they have 400 seats. Hopefully we can fill those seats with people that are interested in learning, not just from the Native community, but for all of Bethel.
I love
about
that.
the impact of Fish Wars.
When's that going to be?
January 28th.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
To close this out, if someone wanted to learn more about Native American history in our area and they wanted to visit an important site in Washington or attend an event, where would you recommend?
I would say museums are great, but it's also dated information sometimes. So finding the relevancy of tribes today, there's some websites. One of them's called Washington Tribes, or Tribes of Washington, I believe it is. And it's a map of all the 29 federally recognized tribes. You can click on each separate tribe, and it gives you a small blurb about that tribe and their economic impacts or things that they're providing for within each of their own communities. There's all kinds of public events that are open to all community that you can explore. There's tons of powwows, powwows.com. You can put in your state, and it gives you a list of events happening in your area. There's Billy Frank Jr. Day coming up. His birthday's in January as well, January 26th. There's another thing called an honor walk for Chief Leschi. And the honor walk actually goes out on JBLM land, and you can walk with tribal community from the Nisqually and hear the stories that they went through as they were removed from those lands when the reservation was reduced down in size. So even if you just put Tribes of Washington in the Google search, you're going to find stuff. So
That's great. A long list of things.
yeah.
Thomas, you look like you have something?
Yeah. So a resource you can use to learn maybe more about Native culture is you can go to the powwows at the different high schools that are around the area. They have dancing. They have a lot of stuff from the tribes around the area.
Fantastic. Ava, how about you? You had your hand up.
This is just my personal opinion, but one of the best ways to find a resource to learn more about Native culture is powwows. Yeah, museums are fine, searching is fine, but I feel like when you're in a powwow, you really get that experience, just not mentally, but also physically, just hearing the music, feeling the drums. It's such a eye-opening thing. And also, if you ever know anyone that's Native, I feel like those resources are always so much better than looking in a book.
I love that. Yeah, that personal connection is so important. Amy, let's have you close this out.
So some of the places that I would recommend would be the websites of the tribes. So search the names of the tribes and go to their website. They will have a lot of the about me and the history of the tribe on their websites. They will also have a tab where you can look up community events, as well as when they have powwows or when they have maybe a potlatch or when they have a gathering of some kind that you can go and observe and you can go and experience for yourself. One of the big things during the summer is we have Canoe Journey. That's a really big event to go and experience and really get some information. A lot of tribes will also have their own museum on site. One of the great ones that I think is amazing is the Makah Museum out in Nia Bay. And then just, finding any and every opportunity to go and experience for yourself.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and I mean this sincerely, looking around the table at all of you. I've really enjoyed our conversation and your input. Amy, Isabella, Ava, Rachel, Thomas, Imani, thank you so much. And Rachel and Amy, thank you for the work that you do in our district with our Native American program. And we'll be back next week with another great show.